Hi all, Leora from Freightos here. What you're about to see is a recording of a live webinar that took place in July 2017 together with our friends at ShipBob. We're going to briefly jump through what Freightos and ShipBob do in less than 2 minutes. Then, Philip from Freightos will talk you through some key tips for international freight, and after we'll pass the baton over to Drew from ShipBob, who will go over some great insight on domestic fulfillment. We'll end with a Q&A session where both panelists answer some great questions from the audience about freight and fulfillment. First, a few quick words on our participants. Very briefly, you'll hear more later. Starting with Freightos. Freightos makes global importing easier and cheaper for thousands of small to medium-sized businesses. If you've ever booked a plane ticket with Priceline or Expedia, then you'll get it when we say we're the Expedia for freight. And we're thrilled to partner with ShipBob, who also believes in smooth shipping, specifically when it comes to last-mile delivery. They are a central hub for e-commerce supply chain and fulfillment, leveraging technology, fulfillment, and logistical efficiency to get your products in the hands of your customers. And today you get to meet two all-star representatives from these companies. From Freightos, our VP of Marketplace Sales, Philip von Mecklenburg-Blumenthal. We call him Dr. Freight because he literally has a PhD in freight rates. He also has nearly a dozen years in the freight world, mostly from DB Schenker, a top 5 global forwarder, and he knows all the tricks for navigating the freight world as easily and inexpensively as possible. And joining us from ShipBob is the head honcho himself, Drew Saxena, the CEO and co-founder. Drew has a background as an engineer, but he launched ShipBob in 2013 to support what he found as a hole in the growing e-commerce market, specifically as it concerns fulfillment. One small thing, we're much better at bringing freight online than we are at recording webinars. Unfortunately, the first 15 seconds of Philip's presentation were cut off. Our apologies. Fortunately, it picked up right when ship got real. So without further ado, here's Philip.
Are your goods allowed into the country? And there are a lot of restrictions out there. We recently had one where, yes, you can, for example, import colored pencils, but did you know that there is a very high tax on it, kind of like a punishment tax, or like for pencils from China? These are, for example, at a tax rate of 115%. So this is something you wouldn't know. It's very, very important that you inform yourself about what goods you can import into the United States or into other countries from Far East, and which are banned. Because not only customs is the requirement, other requirements, for example, are in regarding to food, others are in terms of leather. So you always want to ask your customs broker or at Freightos if you can import this before starting basically your plan. Another like a little pro tip is sunglasses, because you wear them on your skin, are, for example, not banned, but they are for inspection of the Food and Drug Administration. So there are lots of little tricks of things you want to import. Very often your factories know this already, but you want to double check before starting a project and knowing only when the goods arrive in the United States that there actually are issues with this. Once basically this is passed, you want to check if your goods are accepted by the air or ocean carriers. The ocean carriers, they were the slide before, the air and ocean carriers often have restrictions, especially when it's turning out to be hazardous. Very often, even little bit of batteries that are in your goods might be hazardous, and you can still ship them. However, the rates are usually higher. So you want to check this before as well. The last item you want to check is with the Department of Commerce. There are goods where basically there is an additional duty, additional tax on it, so that you're not surprised before coming in. So these are the 3 elements: the customs, the air and ocean carriers themselves, and the Department of Commerce, which you want to check before. Ask a forwarder if there are any restrictions. So let's go to the next slide. The next thing you can check, if you have this squared away, are the Incoterms. And Incoterms, there are 25 different Incoterms in the market. You truly want to understand them very well. The reason why is because every little Incoterm means that you have to pay more or less for shipping. And what are Incoterms? Incoterms determine who pays for what part of the journey in shipping. Let's start with a very easy one, that is Ex Works, meaning you pay everything from the factory door in overseas, in China, Thailand, wherever your goods come from, and you pay it all the way to the final destination. The next thing is that often, especially in China, the Chinese factories have a better agreement with trucking companies shipping them to port. So the second most common Incoterm is FCA, which stands for free carrier. And what does it mean is that they ship in a truck everything to the port. However, you still have to pay for export customs clearance. You have to pay for the documentation, for the export documentation, for the terminal there, the charges, or the exporting warehouse. And so this still falls on you. The most common Incoterm is FOB, which means free on board. That means that the factory in China covers not only pays for the trucking to the port, but it also pays for the export documentation, the customs clearance, and so on. So it's truly on board, meaning you only pay for the main freight, the ocean carriage, the air carriage, whatever you choose, and then all the costs in the country, including customs clearance, including delivery. So these are the three most common Incoterms. So if your factory includes the freight into your offering, then ask them how much it would be with Ex Works or FOB, and sometimes you can actually save a little bit. You can easily check on Freightoscom how much this will be for your goods and see and compare if this is better. Okay. Good. So let's go to the next slide. You always wonder, why should I ship ocean or air? And here's a very, very rough guideline. If you have goods that are under 50 kilos, you want to pick an express or courier type shipment, which means that usually it takes around 3 days from China or Far East into the US, and the rate is approximately around $7 per kilogram, and that's very, very fixed cost. So it costs $7 per kilogram. You can check this on Freightos.com. Usually very, very rough guideline here, if it's between 50 and 500 kilograms, then the cheapest mode is air freight. It takes about 8 to 10 days, and that's really like from the pickup at the factory to the delivery. The actual flight, as you know, from China only takes a few hours, but the overall transportation takes 8 to 10 days, including export customs clearance, import customs clearance, and the rates at the moment are approximately $5 per kilogram. And there are moderate fixed costs, which means that if you double the amount of weight, then there is maybe an additional increase of 50% of the cost. If you're only looking at price and you have over 500 kilogram, then you usually come to ocean freight, which means then it can take between 30 to 40 days for ocean freight, so that takes much, much longer than with air freight, so 30 to 40 days, and the costs drop quite a bit. So they're at the moment around 60 cents per kilogram US dollar, and they are very high fixed costs, meaning if you ship 500 or 1,000 kilogram, usually the cost only increase by like 10 or 20%. The reason why a lot of the costs in ocean freight are fixed, independent of how much you actually ship. Obviously, if you have something over 500 kilo and you need it very urgently, you can always use courier or air freight services. However, obviously the rates are as displayed here. The detailed rates you can easily check on ship.freightos.com. So with that said, we can go to the next slide. So then once you checked everything with customs and with the carriers, when you've selected which mode you go, you want to find really out if you have all goods on hand. And what are these documents that you need on hand? The very first one is the commercial invoice. And the commercial invoice is the invoice that you get from your factory as a documentation that you're buying from the factory. So that's number one. And why you need this is not only an export, but also an import. Customs wants to see it because they want to assess potential duties and taxes. In addition to this, they want to see the packing list, and the packing list and the packing list for customs, and the packing list wants to be seen by the carrier. They simply want to know, okay, there is a box, what is in the box, or there is a pallet, what is in the pallet. And the packing list describes in greater detail how many units, how many SKUs of each article are in there. Both these documents are created by the factory and can provide it to you. In case there's anything hazardous, like paint, batteries, anything that is easily flammable, explosives or so, you will get a material safety data sheet. And only in those cases. If your goods aren't hazardous, you will not have this document. And this document is very, very important because it describes exactly what your goods are, which conditions the goods are. And this is needed also for quoting for your document, for your shipment, meaning how much it will cost. And there's a large variety, as you may assume, in terms of how hazardous goods are and in what kind of type of hazardous they are. As I said, radioactive, explosive, flammable. And so everyone will need this material safety data sheet, and your factory can produce this as well. The last one is something you need at the later end, and that's the power of attorney. Power of attorney is something that you give to the customs broker in the United States, and the customs broker in the United States will be able to clear customs on your behalf with the power of attorney. So this is not something, this is the only of these 4 documents you will not get from your factory. This will be something you get from the freight forwarder or the customs broker to be sent and in order to clear. So these are the big 4 out of probably 20 documents you need when shipping. The first 3 are from your factory. Okay, good. So last item here is there are 2 items you really want to think about after all these steps. The first thing is, do you need insurance? Do you want to insure your goods or not? And what you would be astonished about is that in air freight, in ocean freight, the thing is that not only you have to insure your goods when they get lost or damaged, because the liability of the freight forwarders is very, very, very low. The same in air freight. However, in ocean freight, there's something specific. If there is an accident with the vessel or with the container, then you become part owner of the vessel, and all the cost of recovering the vessel, of recovering the container, you become a part owner and you have to pay. And you want an insurance against this, because even if your goods are $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, or $10,000, if the cost, your part of these costs to recover, like a ship that's burning, it's $100,000, you have to pay the $100,000. So we always recommend to insure your goods. The second thing that's a little confusing is the customs bond. You have a customs bond, so you have a customs broker that you pay for importing the goods into the United States. The customs broker will assess duties and taxes. So you have the 2 elements: the customs broker you need to pay and the duties and taxes to customs. However, in order to import into the United States at approximately over $2,500, then you need a bond with US Customs. And they usually come as a single entry at around $75, meaning you can use them one time when you import. And then there is a multiple entry, which usually comes around $500, and that's for 12 months. So you can import as many goods as you want within 12 months. So think about insurance, and definitely think about the customs bonds, because if your goods are worth more than $2,500 when importing, you need one. All right, so let's go to the next page. All this All this information you can get on Freightos.com. What you do on Freightos.com is basically get a rate within 10 seconds and a very, very specific rate for your shipment. So if you get a rate, if you get a quotation, you can count on it. The rate you see is only what you will pay. So let's click a little bit into what you see. You put in all the dimensions and the weight, and let's assume here you got a result, $893.11 from a factory that's located in Shenzhen, southern China, to a door location or a warehouse, even an Amazon warehouse in Los Angeles. You see it's about 20 days. And you can book it directly from here. So let's see how it looks when you click on the book button. You see here that there is a summary of what you're paying for. There is one shipment from Shanghai, for example, to Flushing, New York. Obviously, it will be exactly as you had it before, and then you put in the commodities, so you have a total visibility across all your shipments. You see in Freightos.com not only the rate, but when you're ordering from Freightos.com, you will see the different shipments with different freight forwarders, because what you have on the next slides is that Freightos.com is a marketplace like a kayak, where not only the rates are from one forwarder, but they are from multiple forwarders participating, like a kayak, like a Swoodoo, from your location. Okay, and so if you have some questions, you can always contact us. There's a phone number on the web page, but even better, a lot of people to make use of chatting with us. When you come to Freightos.com, there's a little chat box in the bottom right. You click on it and say, hey, I have a question. I heard Philip speaking on the webinar about this or that. Can you give me a little bit more details? Or I saw a rate. I have a question about. You can always chat with us. So that's a little bit about not only freight, but it's a little bit about Freightos, our product, and we're always happy to service you. Learn more at Freightos.com or write me at philip@Freightos.com. So thank you very much for your attention, and now I'm heading back over to Leora.
Thank you very much, Philip. That was fantastic. And now that you're all in good shape about actually getting your goods overseas, you want to make sure you handle that last mile as efficiently as possible. And we have Dhruv to tell us how. Here's to you, Dhruv.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura, for having me over here, and thank you, Philip, for sharing very useful insights on international freight. Cool. So as Laura mentioned, I'm Dhruv. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of ShipBob. ShipBob's mission is to help get small to mid e-commerce businesses best-in-class logistics and fulfillment solutions. Super excited to be here and share some of the most important things I've learned about fulfillment, especially around domestic fulfillment, while running ShipBob. So without further ado, we can get started to the next slide. Awesome. So this is tip number one, which is one of the most common objections we hear from e-commerce businesses when we reach out to them or we speak to them, is that they say that they're too early to think about outsourcing fulfillment. But what we've realized, and speaking to several of our clients, is that it's really never too early. One of our clients, Terry, she put out a blog recently, and she has a business around natural vegan beauty products. And she talked about how by outsourcing her fulfillment, she was able to delegate all of these low dollar amount activities to third-party vendors, such as ShipBob for fulfillment. And that freed up a lot of her time to do some really high impact activities for a business, which could be sales, marketing, or whatnot. So as you're spending, if you're an e-commerce business who is doing their own fulfillment, think about the time that you're spending on packaging, shipping, going to the post office, or updating your Excel sheets for inventory management. All of those tasks are sucking up a lot of your time, and they're just required to be done. There's not a lot of huge value add in those activities. And by outsourcing it to another fulfillment provider, you can free up a lot of your time to do some of the more high impact activities. So as you look at outsourcing and you look at potential options, give it some thought and give it enough time so that when you do decide to outsource your fulfillment, you're making a very informed decision. Cool, next slide. Awesome, so this is tip number 2, which is once you decide on picking an outsourced fulfillment partner, typically e-commerce businesses think that they would choose a provider which is closest to their physical location, whether that is their home or their office, and which is natural because as a business owner, you want to be close to your inventory. But if you ask any of the big boys at Amazon or at Walmart as to what has made them really successful, they'll all give you the same answer, which is that you have to flip that thinking on its head and actually pick fulfillment centers which are closer to your customers and not necessarily close to your physical location. And because it's e-commerce and your customers could be spread throughout the entire country, you have to pick out a fulfillment partner which has fulfillment centers distributed throughout the entire country, so you can strategically distribute your inventory across all of these locations. So in this slide right now on the left is how a typical traditional fulfillment looks like, where you have one central place, and from that one central location you are shipping out your orders to all through the entire country. And on the right is what distributed inventory management looks like, where you have distributed your inventory across several locations, and these several locations are decided by looking at your order data and figuring out what proportion of your orders are coming from which location, and then strategically distributing it. And the fulfillment partner that you choose to do your fulfillment should be able to provide you these insights, which make this seemingly very complex task really simple and straightforward. And that is one of the biggest value adds which a fulfillment center would have to help you get your products or your orders out to your customers sooner, and actually much cheaper, because now the last mile is much shorter and goods travel much shorter distance, which makes it much cheaper. And that is actually also the inside reason as to why Amazon has, or Walmart has, those Prime 2-day delivery, because they are not shipping UPS 2-day to get you the 2-day guaranteed delivery. They're shipping using Ground, which is the cheapest service out there, and they're using the distributed inventory strategy to get those 2-day guaranteed time frame. Cool, next slide. Awesome, so tip number 3 is that branded packaging makes all the difference. As a young e-commerce company, we tend to spend a lot of our time on making our website represent our brand, represent our values, and oftentimes we stop right after the customer clicks on the buy button. But once it reaches the end customer, if the packaging is not branded, you're losing a valuable opportunity to have the package represent the brand as well. So everyone probably remembers or can talk about the experience of opening up the first iPhone, because that's an incredible box opening experience. And that box opening experience should not be limited just to the big e-commerce players. I think every single e-commerce player now has the ability to use branded packaging, thanks to a lot of newer startups and custom boxing companies. One of the companies that we work very closely with, Lumi.com, makes it accessible for everyone to create custom boxes. And I think that so by using custom boxes, you are able to deliver your brand right till the last step, and that creates a lot of brand loyalty. And the fulfillment partner that you choose for your fulfillment should be able to provide you with several different options for custom packaging, and that should be a question that you should always ask your fulfillment partner before you end up on one. Cool. Next slide. All right, so now talking about the dollars. So one of the as somebody is in the market looking for fulfillment options, one of the first questions we get is, what is the cost of shipping? And that makes sense, because a lot of the invoices which 3PLs have, one of the biggest line items will be shipping. But oftentimes 3PLs have this habit of hiding a lot of the other fees in some other line items and discounting the shipping. So a better question as you're in the market for looking for fulfillment providers is to instead of asking for shipping, ask what the total fulfillment cost is. And the total fulfillment cost can be calculated by adding not only just the shipping fee, but also the fee that they charge you for the picking, the packing, the weight handling, the kitting, and the warehousing and the storage fee. And if you ask them these detailed questions so that you can have a line-by-line item breakdown of each one of those fee items, you often might realize that the 3PL who's been advertising discounted shipping fee actually might get you on a high picking fee or a high packing fee. So once you have the total fulfillment cost across several different 3PLs, then you can make a much more informed decision around whether that 3PL is worth the time and the money. Oftentimes we get our clients who've been burnt by other 3PLs because they have a very discounted or a cheap shipping rate, but then if that order has 3 items, then the picking fee becomes much higher than the cost of the shipping for them. And so the total fulfillment cost is actually a much better gauge of whether the 3PL is a good fit for your needs or not. Next slide. All right, and then technology obviously plays a huge role in fulfillment as well. So a 3PL is just not you know, a service provider for your packaging and for your shipping. A 3PL should be a partner in your success, and one of the ways that a 3PL can be measured is what, besides just the packaging and the shipping, what technology do they have in place which can help you run your business better. So analytics. So the good thing about e-commerce is that everything can be measured, right? So and so the 3PL, because it connects across all your sales channel, should have the ability to get you some very basic business information around your revenue, around your cost of goods sold, and some of the other fulfillment metrics around perfect order metrics, information around your inventory turns, inventory numbers, so on and so forth. So anything that you, as you know, in business, they say anything that gets measured gets improved. So if a 3PL has the ability to surface all this information back to you, then you can run your business much more effectively. And these data points should not be restricted just to big e-commerce vendors. I think a 3PL should have the ability to surface this information so that the same information which a bigger e-commerce company has, any small to mid-sized e-commerce business should also have access to that same information and make some much more informed decisions than just relying on their gut to make those decisions. So I would highly encourage, before you sign up on any 3PL or fulfillment, always ask them to give you a demo of their software or of their dashboard, because that way you'll be able to separate out the ones which are really going to be a partner or just going to be another fulfillment provider. Good, next slide. Awesome. So what does ShipBob do? So our mission, or the reason we got started, was to help provide an Amazon level fulfillment experience for all small to mid-sized e-commerce businesses across USA. I used to have an e-commerce business before ShipBob, and I realized that the fulfillment is really broken for small to mid-sized businesses, because most of the 3PLs are actually built to cater to the really, really high-end e-commerce businesses. So with that intent, we started ShipBob, and what we do is we basically marry the software with our fulfillment. So on the software side, our one central dashboard acts as a hub for an e-commerce business to run the entire back office operations. So if you think about all the back office operations you need to run a successful e-commerce business, you're talking about inventory management, you're talking about a shipping platform or a transport management system, or a way for you to manage your purchase orders or your reorder and your inventory notification tools. All of those software tools are built out on the ShipBob dashboard. So that is one central place where you can log in and you can get all the information you need to run your entire back office. And because we are already connected to all of your sales channel, we actually have our own network of fulfillment centers spread out throughout the country, where we can distribute your inventory, and as orders come in, we are able to package and ship those orders out from the closest fulfillment center. So these fulfillment centers are not outsourced or subcontracted out to other vendors. They are owned and operated by ShipBob. So we are able to manage the employees and manage the entire transaction inside our warehouse. So that leads for a much better customer experience than some of the other 3PLs, which are just maybe like a software layer, but then subcontract the actual fulfillment piece of it. So this marriage of software and fulfillment is a huge benefit to e-commerce businesses, because they can rely on ShipBob for end-to-end order processing. Good. Next slide. Great. So this is a good a brief demo of what the dashboard looks like. So on the left, you can see all the different tabs that we have, where you can manage all your orders, all your inventory, manage all the returns, as well as get insight into your reporting. So if you think about order management, e-commerce business is not just selling on one channel. They are selling across multiple channels, which is including Amazon, Walmart, or their own website. So they can log into ShipBob Dashboard, and from one central hub, they can manage orders and inventory across all the different channels they're selling on. On the right is a good visual indication of some of the analytics I talked about. So you can see an indication around how many orders are fulfilled on time, how many orders are delivered to the end customers damage-free, and what does the perfect order, which is a combination of all those different metrics, what does that look like? And some people, some e-commerce business owners think that a customer onboarding with a fulfillment provider is extremely complicated. That might have been true some years ago, but now with ShipBob, what we've done is we've simplified the process of onboarding into like 4 simple steps, so we can get a new business up and running onto our system in less than 5 minutes if they follow the simple checklist that we've built on our dashboard. Next slide. Awesome. So ultimately, to recap all the things that I talked about, some of the advantages of ShipBob is that we bridge the gap between software and fulfillment. Using a lot of data and using algorithms, we are able to distribute inventory or split inventory across several of our locations, which allows you to get your products out to your customers in a much shorter time frame and at a much cheaper price point, because they don't cross different zones. All those items are delivered within the same shipping zone. That allows us to get packages delivered the same day and next day for the majority of the packages, because we are shipping them from really close to where your customers are. And ultimately, because we really believe in e-commerce businesses to be able to build a brand around their products, we offer free packaging, and we also help you partner up with some of the other companies which provide some custom branded packaging. And ultimately, none of this would work if we did not provide you with some awesome software which can provide you analytics and data around how to run your business better. So some of the key features of a dashboard include inventory management, advanced reporting, and integration across several different sales channels. So any e-commerce business does not have to find 5 other solutions for running their business. They hopefully find ShipBob to be the one central place for running their domestic e-commerce fulfillment operations. And I think so that was my spiel. If anyone has any questions, I'll look forward to answering those for you. At any point, you can always email us at support@shipbob.com, and we have an entire team here who's super excited about working with prospective e-commerce businesses and help them become more successful online. Awesome. It's back to you, Laura.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dhruv. That was really interesting. I personally learned a lot about last mile fulfillment, as my specialty is more international freight. So thank you for those great suggestions. Now we're going to open the floor up to questions. We've gotten a lot in during the webinar, which is awesome. I love that. Keep sending them, and we will keep answering as many as we can. I will defer to both Philip and Dhruv. I'm going to unmute both of you now so that you can chime in with answers, and I will defer to each of you as we go. So let us start with Philip, because this came in pretty early on in your presentation. So someone asked about the difference of handling customs by sea and handling customs by air, and if there are any other fees and charges that apply that come in when shipping sea versus air besides those that were discussed.
Yeah, great question. So generally, import customs into the United States is the same by sea and by air. However, there is a slight difference, an additional fee, which is called the importer security filing. And that's the ISF, which only exists for ocean freight or sea freight, and that is usually in the range of $50. The reason for this is that the United States, not only the customs, but also the Department of Homeland Security and so-called other government agencies want to know what's in the box, what's in the container before coming in, and they want to know this 48 hours before the goods depart. So that's why the customs broker has to file ISF for ocean freight, and this doesn't exist for air freight. So there's this difference of $50. It's called ISF filing.
Awesome, thank you very much. Next, we will go to ShipBob. Somebody asked if ShipBob offers an option for domestic QA inspection.
So that's a good question. So right now it's in beta, so we are testing it with some of our clients who are getting stuff imported from China and from other countries. But as of right now, we are more focused around fulfillment. But we have a pretty open door policy. So even if our clients are not in one of our fulfillment centers, they can schedule an appointment with our fulfillment centers and can come in and inspect their packages, inspect their inventory before it gets shipped out. So that's the advantage of having our own fulfillment centers, is that we can make all of these accommodations happen.
Also, Drew, while I have you, someone asked for the name of the custom box company that you had mentioned in your presentation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the name of the company is Lumi. That's LUMI.com.
Awesome, thanks. Let's go back to Philip. Someone asked about the difference between a commercial invoice and a pro forma invoice.
A very good question, and the answer is very short. It's the same.
There you go. So we'll give you another one then, Philip. Also about paperwork. Someone asked if there was a major cost for the POA, if there are the power of attorney for those that miss that. If there's a fixed basic minimum cost for the insurance and customs forms, if there's any additional charges for those.
Yeah, so the POA doesn't cost you anything. This is basically just giving a power of attorney to your customs broker. The customs itself, paying a customs broker to do your customs import clearance, is usually in the range between $90 and $125. So that's what you can calculate, independent of how much it weighs or how large the goods are. So that's with how much customs is. In insurance, you can usually calculate that it's 0.6% of your goods value. So there's usually a minimum of 25, between $50. If you go to ship.freightos.com and you play around with a little bit, you see it easily. You can put all this in there. So these are the fees: 0.6% for insurance, and between depending on the goods value, and between $90 and $125 for import customs clearance in the United States.
Awesome, thank you. I will go back to Dhruv now. Someone said distributed fulfillment sounds right for the last mile, but what about the extra cost of distributing all over the country?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah, so a lot of times we get that question. So the trick there is in analyzing what are the most popular SKUs that you have. So a lot of times maybe you have a 80-20 rule where 80% of your orders are coming from 20% of your inventory. So then it makes sense to just strategically distribute not the entire inventory catalog, but just the most popular SKUs, which are amounting for most amount of orders, and then keep the remaining 80% of your inventory maybe closer, maybe in one or two central locations. So that way, by distributing just your most popular SKUs, you will be able to cover 80 to 90% of your orders within that 1 to 2 day time frame.
Awesome, thank you. Philip, another question about the customs, which I know for a fact we get often, is about when is the customs duty paid and how is it paid normally?
Yeah, so that's the customs duties are due upon importing into the United States. What the customs broker is doing that you're paying is he puts, based on the commercial invoice or the pro forma invoice, all the information into the customs system and then assesses the customs duties. He does that on a document that is very technical. It's called the 7501. That's the customs entry summary. And based on that, you will know how much customs you have to pay. You can estimate this already a little bit before. There are duty estimators online. One is dutycalculator.com. We also have one on Freightos.com where you can put in the goods. What you need for it is the so-called HTS code, which is the code that is describing your goods. For example, like a shirt made of cotton and in white. So that describes the duties. This describes your goods, and with that you have a code, and this code will be telling you how much duties you have to pay. You can do this before, but the final amount you only know exactly when the goods are coming in. When do you know this? When do you have to pay this? You have to pay this before the goods are delivered. You have to pay the duties, and the duties you pay to your freight forwarder or to customs directly. There are two ways. Either you cut a check to customs and make a copy of it and send it to the freight forwarder, or the freight forwarder will outlay the goods. The cost for duty calculation. This depends always a little bit. Usually, you just the easiest way is just cutting a check, sending it there, and sending a copy or of just a photo of the check to the customs broker.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I know that that's a big question. So, Drew, we got a question that I think you'll enjoy answering. The million-dollar question, Amazon versus ShipBob fulfillment.
Yeah, I've never heard that one before. Yeah, surprising.
I'm sure.
No, so I think Amazon fulfillment is a great fulfillment solution if the primary source of your orders is Amazon.com. But if you're trying to build a brand around your e-commerce business, or you have a product which is maybe not a commodity item, where really the value is the brand and the special unique features that the product has, then the brand value maybe gets diluted if you're using Amazon fulfillment for it. And especially, I think Amazon fulfillment is not a great multi-channel fulfillment solution. So a company like ShipBob, which allows you to connect across several of your sales channels, it makes it possible for you to not only connect or use ShipBob for all the different channels where you're selling on, but it also allows you to have your brand represented all the way through till the package gets delivered to your final customer. So imagine the customer ordering from any channel but receiving the item in a box or in a packaging which is integral or representative for your brand. I think if that is the strategy, or if that is the focus of your business, then ShipBob is a clear better solution than an Amazon fulfillment. And I think the other one is around the software that we provide, the analytics that you need to run your business more effectively, especially around inventory turns, order management, and perfect order metrics. All of those analytics are really key for a business owner, and I think the marriage of the ShipBob software with the fulfillment makes us a very different solution compared to Amazon.
Fantastic, thank you. I had a good one for Philip. Someone asked, is it easy to combine shipments from multiple suppliers for air or ocean freight? Are there any special considerations while ordering?
Yeah, I mean it depends on where you're importing from. So if you're importing, if your factories are all closely located in the southern China area, or like in the area of Shanghai, Ningbo, then it is. What I wouldn't recommend is combining with a factory that is like in central China and one in southern China. Usually, not only the costs are higher, but also you have complications going from one district to the one province to the other. What we recommend is, yes, like the forwarder can usually collect them all. That's called a buyer's console. However, the easiest part, and we've done this multiple times, is basically you just have the factory where the majority of the goods are coming from be the consolidation center, and ask the factory with the smaller goods to just bring the goods to the other factory. So that is they usually do it. They have no problem with that, and then it's picked up there combined. Usually they even like put it together on a pallet or wrap it together so that it's nicely packaged. I've done this and we've seen it multiple times. It's very easy. Just keep in mind that you will have 2 commercial invoices, and because of 2 commercial invoices, you have to do twice the customs clearance in the United States. Because it's done as 2 separate shipments.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that answer. I think we're going to start wrapping it up because I promised you all 45 minutes, and because of those fantastic questions, we ran a little over. I did get 2 questions that I will answer. Some people asked about coverage on Freightos and specific routes that we have. Some people said they couldn't find, and are we only servicing China or are we worldwide? We are consistently building out new coverage. We have definitely more than just China now. We're really servicing UK-based importers. Where recently we got for rates for Germany, we have for Australia, we have for Israel, we have for, I believe most recently was Korea. So we're really adding coverage at a great rate, really great pace, and we will keep you updated as those lanes come about. You can message us if there's a specific lane you're interested in so we know to contact you, or if you've run a search, then we can reach out to you and let you know. So that's just a Freightos technical question to address, and I think that is all the time we have for today. Again, those questions were really just fantastic. Thank you all for your participation. A huge thank you to Philip and to Drew. Everyone, the information was fantastic and will be available to all of you because we recorded this webinar and we will share it, send it out to all of you. You can share it with people. You can keep it on record and keep referring back. And anytime you have more questions, you can come to Freightos, you can come to ShipBob, you can reference the webinar. We will be happy to discuss anything with you about freight fulfillment, the webinar, or anything else. So really thank you everyone again for your participation, and hope to see you on Freightos and ShipBob. And that's it. Have a great day.